Welcome to the Bogosity podcast for the 9th of February 2015, the podcast that's salting the path to your mind. This is your host, Shane Killian, and join me again this week is Travis Retriever. Travis, welcome back to the show.
It's good to be back, Shane.
First, a quick announcement. I now have a Patreon page up. Actually, it's been up for a while. I just haven't announced it because I was working on it, and truth be told, it's still a work in progress. But the default is that you can patronize this podcast, the Bogosity website, and the YouTube channel for $1 a month. And of course, you can set your own amount. I'm still working on what all the benefits will be. One benefit will be getting the podcast and the YouTube videos early. And hopefully in the near future, we'll do some patron-only Google Hangouts. And I can even invite the Bogosity co-host to join in with that. And by all means, let me know what we can do to make this worth the money. So check the link in the show notes. And one more thing before we get started. There probably won't be a podcast next week because I'm going to take a few days off from everything and just rebuild my computer system. I've got a brand new SSD coming in. I'm just going to reinstall everything from scratch, and hopefully that'll get rid of all of the issues we've been having, like all the audio problems we've had when we're trying to get the podcast going and things like that. And maybe I can get Photoshop working again, because Adobe is of no help that. But I haven't been able to run Photoshop in like a couple of months, and that's why I haven't gotten any videos in the encryption series out, because I use Photoshop heavily for that. And as good as GIMP is, it's just lacking in some things. So.
Well, good luck with that.
Well, thanks. So let's quicklime the news of the Bogus. And this didn't take long. Ross Ulbricht has been found guilty on all counts of being the Dread Pirate Roberts, the administrator of the darknet e-commerce site Silk Road. And we talked about this a few weeks ago after the trial started, and it became kind of clear it was going to be a kangaroo court.
I mean, it's like, yeah, no surprises there. I mean, the fact that this guy's getting a lifetime sentence for what's essentially just commerce that the government doesn't approve of, compared to, say, a murderer who gets, or a rapist who gets, 25 years or to life or whatever it is. I mean, yeah, that's...
Well, we don't actually know if he's getting a life sentence yet. The minimum, I think, is either 30 or 35 years, and it could be as much as life. But he was found guilty on all 7 federal charges, none of which were the ones about hiring the hitman, because that's going to be a separate case. But these included things like drug trafficking, running a criminal enterprise, orchestrating a conspiracy to sell fake IDs, conspiring to sell hacking tools, and involvement in money laundering. So basically, he's being responsible for the things that his users did. Which, they said a long time ago that he can't really do that.
What exactly is Silk Road? Is it related to the darknet that you, me, and I think Thomas covered a while back?
The darknet in this case refers to the Onion network, which is an encrypted network that turns out may not be quite as anonymous as we thought it was, because all these online marketplaces there are being shut down. So it was kind of like eBay, but just the fact that it was on the darknet and it was all encrypted and anonymous meant that people were buying and selling the things you couldn't buy and sell on eBay. Everything from IDs to drugs. It was pretty much this huge drug marketplace and all sorts of things. And there was some self-policing going on. For example, anyone who tried to come in and sell child pornography, they were basically shut down by the users. Their reputations were trashed and no one would deal with them, things like that. But for the most part, it was anything goes. And of course, there was a lot of legal material there too. But the thing is, it was kind of like eBay or like Craigslist. The things that people were doing, they were just doing on their own. And while, there are prostitutes and things like that on Craigslist, they shut those down, but they don't go after the Craigslist website for that. And yet they are here.
Yeah. On Fur Affinity, it reminds me of this one fur I know who actually is, in real life, a male escort. And he actually has the link to his escort profile or whatever directly on his profile on the furry side. And I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, that's kind of the problem also, is I guess just the inconsistency and the randomness of it. Some people, they get by fine. GovCo never seems to want to touch them for it. Others think even slightly out of place, and it's time to ruin your life. Because potato, I guess.
So, one of the reasons why the trial was so short was that Ulbricht's lawyer couldn't put on that much of a defense because the judge, Catherine Forrest, kept blocking all the evidence he wanted to introduce and wouldn't let him bring up witnesses such as Andreas Antonopoulos, who's an expert on Bitcoin, or Columbia University computer science professor Stephen Bellovin. And apparently he was going to call them up basically to tear apart the Fed story because there's so much about it that doesn't really make sense. But I mean, if you have a jury full of non-technical people, you need an expert up there to explain that to them. And also, it says that Forrest sustained a disproportionate amount of the prosecutor's objections against all of the, basically anything which supports his theory that he was framed, because he says, yes, I did create the Silk Road, but then he turned it over to the people, and it's the people who were running it who basically had him as a patsy when they knew the feds were on him, and he basically wasn't allowed to make that argument.
So basically it was, no, your evidence and your position doesn't count because, well, fuck you, that's why.
It kind of reminded me of the Ed Rosenthal case. I don't know if you remember that from many years ago. He was an unpaid volunteer preparing medical marijuana for patients in the city of Oakland. And he was doing it for the city. It was completely legal. He didn't even make any money doing it. He was an unpaid volunteer. The jury in his federal case got to hear none of that. They only heard that he sold these massive amounts of marijuana, and so they very quickly convicted him as a drug dealer. So,
call me surprised. And as for this specific case, so, I mean, if the stuff with Pirate Bay is any indicator, something tells me that whatever site they were, like, whatever system these people were using to trade, methinks it probably won't be down for much longer, assuming it's not back up already.
Well, there was a Silk Road 2.0, and it's already been taken back down now, so...
Wow!
But, I mean, maybe there'll be a Silk Road 3.0, who knows? But there's already hundreds of other websites there. You know, there's no way they can take them all down.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, come on.
And something else to consider, the jury only deliberated for 3 hours. And despite what you see on The Practice and Law & Order, a jury giving a fast verdict like that is a bad sign. It generally means that they're just jumping to the first conclusion they came to, which in this case they probably didn't have much of a choice because, like I said, the defense wasn't actually allowed to put on a defense. But so many of this just seems to me like so much grounds for appeal. I don't think we've heard the last of this.
Yeah. Well, here's hoping the appeal, if he does get it, well, you know, be a bit less one-sided.
Yeah. Hackers, terrorists, the NSA. But I repeat myself. Your online security is under attack, and the weakest point is your password. That's why you need LastPass. LastPass plugs into your browser and allows you to randomly generate strong, unique passwords anywhere on the web, all protected by one master password. LastPass sets up in minutes and gives you secure automatic logins throughout the web, synchronizing across all your browsers and all your computers, at home, at work, or on the road. It even securely stores sensitive form data, including credit card numbers, backup sensitive documents, membership info, Wi-Fi logins, and more. And with LastPass Premium, you can get these benefits on other applications and even mobile devices, and also get priority customer support. Sign up at password.bogosity.tv for a free month of LastPass Premium. Log in securely everywhere using the last password you'll ever have to remember. Go to password.bogosity.tv and get LastPass now. Well, more menaces to society have been dealt with, specifically 2 teenagers in Bridgewater, New Jersey. Yes, police stopped these punk kids from menacing the public by shoveling their driveways.
The horror. Oh, next thing you know, they'll be selling lemonade.
I don't think they're as horrible as the people selling lemonade, but apparently they're up there.
Well, evidently.
So this is Matt Molinari and his friend. They're both seniors, and they were going door to door advertising a snow shoveling service because there was this huge storm coming, and they said, hey, you know, we'll come and shovel your driveway. And Molinari said, quote, we weren't looking to break the law, we just didn't know the law. But of course, ignorance of the law is no excuse unless you're a congressman or the president or a judge or something like that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it reminds me, like, to have someone bring in a wheelbarrow full of all the regulations and laws and other minutiae and say, seriously? You're seriously telling me that you've read and understand and know all this stuff? Ignorance is no excuse for the law, my foot.
Ignorance of the law is inevitable.
I mean, when you have that many laws, I mean, grief, what do you expect? That stuff. I mean, unless you're a big multinational corporation, who of course can afford the army of lawyers for that
That's
stuff.
really what it is. It's about who has the biggest army of lawyers.
And yeah, also, double Bogon points to any old footy-duddies who then say, kids today have it so easy. They're not working like I was.
So Molinari said that the cops told him, quote, they need a permit. Unpermitted solicitation is not allowed. So think of that next time someone tells you how much of a free market we have and unfettered capitalism and all that.
Oh, please. I mean, it reminds me of the way they said unpermitted solicitation. It makes it sound like they're hookers or something. Seriously. And even then, who cares? Oh my God.
But when MyCentralNewJersey.com researched the story, they talked to the Bound Brook police chief. And he said, well, it wasn't because they were shoveling, but because it was a state of emergency and it was dangerous for them to be out.
Yeah, heaven forbid we haven't heard that BS excuse enough times.
Yeah.
It's a shame that they weren't able to, make honest money like that.
Yeah.
Such a shame.
Bogosity.tv and all of its services are hosted at GoDaddy. I've been very satisfied with GoDaddy's services and their wonderful 24/7 customer support for over 10 years now. So I'm happy to be able to give you this special offer. Just sign up for any new domain, web hosting, email, or other service and get 35% off with the code WOWNOBOGON. That's WOWNOBOGON. Because there's nothing bogus about these savings on quality internet hosting. Just go to GoDaddy.com and use the code WOWNOBOGON. So in all this talk of net neutrality and people cheering the FCC for standing up for the consumer and against the big cable and telco companies, and one big problem that they're using to call for action is the number of U.S. homes without broadband internet access, that number is triple what it was a year ago. 3 times as many homes are without broadband access. How did that happen? Well, because the FCC redefined the word broadband.
Great. This reminds me of that old Onion video, which I can't for the life of me find, that basically had people cheering because the Surgeon General or whoever changed the definition of obesity to be much fatter. So it basically talks about... So I remember it was showing this, quote, formerly obese man, close quotes, talking about how he's so glad that, the government finally did something about the obesity, quote, epidemic, close quote.
Well, they actually do that with things like test scores in the school system. They lower what a passing grade is and hey, look, more schools are passing. Yeah, great, wonderful. So this is in the FCC's 2015 Broadband Progress Report. And it used to be if your service was 4 megabits download and 1 megabit upload, it was broadband. They upped that to 25 megs down and 3 megs up.
Which, for the record, mine's about 0.9 down and about 0.4 up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did I mention how much I hate Verizon and their DSL?
Yeah.
Of course, our only other option in this area, well, other than dial-up, would be, I think it's Comcast, and I don't think we need to go there.
Comcast has a lower customer satisfaction rating than the IRS. That should tell you everything you need to know.
God have mercy on my soul.
I think it's John that's on Comcast, and every time he's on the podcast, we just have all sorts of connection issues.
Oh, God. And
even though he's supposed to have 50 megabits down or something. Because I'm on Charter. I think I have 50 megs down and 4 megs up.
Want to trade? No, I'm kidding. Jeez. But
I'm not going back to DSL.
Oh, God.
Not least because it would mean going back to AT&T.
Oh, God.
So, FCC Commissioner Tom Wheeler said, quote, when 80% of Americans can access 25.3, that's a standard. We have a problem that 20% can't. We have a responsibility to that 20%. So basically, every time it goes up and every time we do better, they're going to take whatever the lowest 20% is and just set the definition above that.
Great. So here's an idea. Why don't they get rid of the bullshit monopolies that local ISPs have? I mean, reminds me of these folks, of this one post from, I think it was called Being Oblivious. Yeah, yet another page making fun of being liberal. They tried to pull the old, one data point deal. Chattanooga, Tennessee has a public facility and stuff for internet, and look, they've got the fastest in the country. According to that think tank that showed which states are the freest, Well, it went into more in detail with specific types of freedom, and fun fact, Tennessee has the freest telecommunications industry in the entire country. I mean, it's like, folks, come on, this isn't rocket science. Jeez. I mean, next thing you know, these people will be trying to credit ARPANET for being the reason why we have internet, even though, as you, being someone who's much more technical about this stuff than I am, has pointed out, one, it was only the protocol, and two, it's something that causes problems to this very day, like spam, and having the government manage and police the internet, and look out for us. Yes, the same government that made such fun bills like the DMCA, SOPA, CISPA, to name but a few, I'm sure.
And the same FCC commissioners and politicians and everything who have been taking lobbying money from all these, big cable and telco organizations. I mean, if you actually did go and say, hey, let's have real competition, let's break up these monopolies, they'd really complain about that, as opposed to this fake complaining like, no, don't push net neutrality on us. No, Brer Fox, don't throw me in the briar patch.
And of course, come on, you people here are smarter than this, damn it. Who do you think's been lobbying for net neutrality? It's like, dude, follow the fucking money, dumbass.
So, FCC Commissioner Mignon Clyburn said, quote, as consumers adopt and demand more from their platforms and devices, the need for broadband will increase, requiring robust networks to be in place in order to keep up. What's crystal clear to me is that the broadband speeds of yesteryear are woefully inadequate today and beyond. Yeah, because it's not like with a free market or anything, increased demand means people doing more of it.
Well, didn't you hear? That means the price goes sky high, just like the United States healthcare, even though it's been a corporate monstrosity for the later half of an entire century, but, details.
If you have a spike in demand, the price will go up short term, but that price is a signal to producers saying, hey, make more of this product.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're incentivized to do.
Hell, take cell phones. Like, the people complaining, oh, well, I got the cell phone, but yeah, if I waited, a month and it'd be, less than half price. Yeah. That's kind of how it works. Your pet industry is not magical or different. Get over it.
The fact that people are waiting in really long lines to get the new iPhone when it comes out, and not all of them can get it, means that from an economic standpoint, Apple isn't charging enough.
Indeed.
So anyway, FCC Commissioner Jessica Rosenworcel said, quote, we invented the internet. No, you didn't. We can do audacious things if we set big goals. And I think our new threshold, frankly, should be 100 megabits. I think anything short of that shortchanges our children, our future, and our new digital economy.
Again, I go back to my comments about breaking up the monopolies, but,
There you go, being radical again.
Yeah, it is so painful to me, seeing people I know who don't understand this stuff. It's not like we're saying some radical new idea. This is stuff most of us mastered by the time we were, 5 or 6 years old. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Don't hit. Don't steal. Take stuff that's not yours, and just applying it universally. That such a position will be considered the extreme fringe speaks volumes, and none of it good.
Yeah, it's just don't use force.
Exactly.
And you say, well, don't use force to get what you want. Well, you're an extremist. Well, that is a pretty sad state of affairs, isn't it?
Yeah.
When just say, let's find a way to do this peacefully, and you're this big radical.
And the worst part is, in everyday life, these folks understand this. When I made probably the most tasteless joke I've ever made, I'm sure Hawkeye and them know what I mean. What did he offer, to say, call the police or use force against me? Fuck no. He just threatened to block me. Just good old-fashioned disassociation. But, we can't have that, say, with stuff like this, or, people who want to run a restaurant or bake cakes or whatever, because, well, reasons.
But at least there was a little bit of skepticism from FCC Commissioner Michael O'Reilly. They have a lot of commissioners, don't they?
Jeez.
But he said, quote, the report notes that 4K TV requires 25 megabits, but 4K TV is still relatively new. In fact, they haven't even hammered out a standard for it. They're still working on that. And anyway, and is not expected to be widely adopted for years to come. While the statute directs us to look at advanced capability, this stretches the concept to an unreasonable extreme. Some people, for example, believe, probably incorrectly, that we are on a path to interplanetary teleportation. Should we include the estimated bandwidth for that as well?
Yes, a seed of sanity in a sea of insanity. Sheesh.
So, but anyway, that's going to be the standard for broadband, which basically means that DSL is not going to be considered broadband anymore.
Well, at my speeds, mine was never considered broadband to begin with, but...
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
But I don't know what the fastest bandwidth for DSL is, but I think it's probably like 10 megabits or something like that. I don't think you're going to get more than that out of DSL.
Yeah.
Just because of the limits of the technology.
Yeah. I mean, I know that the fastest would be like fiber optics, which I'm told is as fast as 1,000 megabits, which, oh god, do you want?
Yeah. I got gigabit Ethernet running locally, and man, when I copy between computers, zoom.
Grief. I mean, I know a friend of mine says, oh, well, we have like 50 megabits, oh, we can barely use that. Oh, I have some ideas that I can use to make up for a lost time.
But it's like, AT&T and Verizon, and they kept saying, well, we'll let us have our monopoly power, we'll use it, and we'll get fiber everywhere, and then they stopped rolling it out. So Google says, okay, we'll run Google fiber in there. Oh no, you can't do that, and they get shut down.
I remember you saying that it's not really just it's not a limitation with the technology that we have available itself. Like, there's tons of these dark fiber optic cables or other such things that are basically gathering dust beneath the streets or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think there's still a lot of fiber out there that's just dark.
Yeah, I think
it's
that was
installed
what
and people aren't using it.
Yeah.
They call it dark when fiber's not being used because you're not shining a light down it and using it to... But I mean, it's like we are a joke to so many other countries. We're ranked 25th in the world in broadband speeds, even though we're the greatest country with the best economy and we invented the internet. 25th in the world.
And if I recall correctly, I want to say I've actually gone online and checked in terms of speeds, and in terms of countries, I think it's either Korea or Japan that's first. No surprise there. And as for individual cities, it's actually Hong Kong that's number one there.
That wouldn't surprise me. This is Shane jumping in post. I did a little bit of research on what Travis just said, and I found a report from the Open Technology Institute. Seoul, Korea is actually rated number one in the world for internet access. They have 1 gigabit speeds for $30.30 a month. That's US dollars adjusted by purchasing power parity. Hong Kong is number 2. You can get a gigabit there for $37.41 a month. And in Tokyo, you can get a gigabit for $39.15 a month. Travis mentioned Tennessee earlier. Chattanooga, Tennessee is number 4. But even though it's still a gigabit, you have to pay $69.99 for that. So... yeah, there's a lot of places in the world that are doing a lot better than we are, so check it out. Link is in the show notes.
God! So I'm thinking, like, damn it, how viable would it be for me to move there? Son of a bitch! God, yeah. I mean, yeah, it would mean probably never going to a furry convention, but oh well, that's a price you pay for freedom, damn it.
There might be furries in Hong Kong.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I've seen some Chinese furries as well, so yeah.
Yeah, but this is just one more case of government trying to ride in on a white horse and save us all from these evil companies who would most likely be giving us what we want anyway were it not for those very same government regulations to begin with.
Match.
And that's what I really like about this article in The Verge, how they closed it out. It says the FCC's decision cable providers to step up speeds for everyone, something that probably would have happened with even a little competition in the broadband market.
Okay, 2 clue ones for them. 1, using the word force. Thank you for acknowledging the Gun in the Room website, or The Verge. 2, for noting the massive lack of competition.
Now, if they had just gone one step further and pointed out how it's the government's fault.
Yeah, it's like, so close, but at least they didn't completely F it up near the end, like that one Tea Party image macro that went all theocratic that you once posted. So, yeah, at least they didn't fumble it completely.
It's a start. At least people are starting to talk about the competition issue. That's more than they were doing a year or 2 ago.
True that.
You say you don't like Bitcoin? Why not? Oh, because it's not gold. No problem. Just go to coins.bogosity.tv and you'll be taken to Coinable, where you can buy gold or silver coins or bars with your Bitcoins, with literally up-to-the-minute spot pricing. Now there's no reason not to jump on the Bitcoin bandwagon. Whether you're a Bitcoin miner, service operator, Bitcoin business owner, or market speculator, you can get gold and silver from reputable dealers. And Coinable has Bitcoin liquidity for fast processing of your order. Coinable even utilizes a special shipping infrastructure to ensure that your investment arrives safely at your door. And you know what? By going to coins.bogosity.tv, you won't pay a penny more, a Satoshi more for your purchase. But you'll help this podcast. You can even sell your gold and silver for Bitcoin as well. Coinable is your Bitcoin to gold marketplace. So go to coins.bogosity.tv and start turning your Bitcoins into gold now. So we've talked with great indignation about the cop who stole a woman's private photos to make a fake Facebook profile to try and entrap drug dealers. Well, as you might figure, there are those out there who are worse. A California Highway Patrol officer searched the phones of several women and found nude photos which he kept and even forwarded to his colleagues, and he won't spend a single hour in jail because of it.
A number of feminists bitchin' who will no doubt complain about this. Zilch. Because, as usual, it doesn't count when the government does it. And who will then wonder why the rest of us don't take them seriously when they don't call out the biggest perpetrators of this kind of crap.
So this is Sean Harrington. He pleaded no contest to 2 felony charges, unauthorized access to a computer and copying computer data. I know you'd think there would be something actually posting actual nude pictures would be a crime or something like that, but whatever.
Also, no contest. That's a plea you can make? I thought that was not guilty and guilty.
Well, it's called nolo contendere, I think is the official term for it. It means I'm not actually saying I'm guilty, but I'm not going to find it and I'm going to accept the penalty.
More you know.
So, under the terms of his plea deal, he's getting a 180-day suspended sentence and 3 years of felony probation. If he had been convicted of it, he could have gotten a maximum of up to 3 years and 8 months in prison.
But, of course, since he's a police officer, it's not going to happen, isn't it?
Well, and his lawyer said that it was actually too harsh a penalty. Quote, I think if this would have been a case where it was not a police officer, but some other citizen who didn't have a criminal record, it would have been a misdemeanor case.
Fuck you. That is bullshit and you know it. If this were anyone who wasn't a police officer or a government agent, you'd throw the book at them and call for him on a cross.
And he actually admitted, Harrington did, that he'd victimized more women. He admitted to stealing photos from women's phones 4 to 6 times during the last few years and forwarding them to his colleagues. And in at least 2 of the cases, the women had handed the police their phones on request, just thinking like, oh, I'm going to cooperate with the police because they know what they're doing. They have my best interest. I mean, they didn't have a warrant or anything. They just gave it over to them, and then all of a sudden, there go their pictures.
And people have the nerve to call us naive.
Yeah, so keep your phone locked with a secure passphrase. If possible, keep it encrypted. And have one of those services that lets you delete everything remotely in case something like that happens. Because, yeah, it can be bad. Bogosity.tv is a participant in the Amazon Services LLC Associates Program, an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for sites to earn advertising fees by advertising and linking to Amazon.com. Just clear your cookies and go to amazon.bogosity.tv, or check the right-hand side of the podcast page for Amazon's best deals, including the deal of the day and limited-time lightning deals on all sorts of great products. So next time you buy online, go to amazon.bogosity.tv. And now let's implode this week's biggest Bogon emitter. And once again, we have to give it to the news media for their usual idiotic spin and partisan bias. And this is a good write-up in Errata Security, where he talks about President Obama and Chris Christie making almost identical statements about vaccination. They said that parents should absolutely vaccinate their children, but it's still ultimately the parents' choice, and the government shouldn't break into their houses with a needle and stick them with it.
I mean, yeah, that sounds decent. I mean, as a libertarian, I think not vaccinating your children is a massively dick move, but I think it's a wee bit counterproductive to say, okay, let's have GovCo force everyone to it.
Yeah, I'm not sanguine about giving the government power to forcibly inject substances into our bodies. But really, not vaccinating is right up there with not feeding them, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But what the news media did was praise Obama for calling for vaccination, but blasting Christie for siding with the anti-vaxxers.
Grief.
So here's the White House's statement, quote, "The president clearly believes that these kinds of decisions are decisions that should be made by parents because ultimately when we're talking about vaccinations, we're typically talking about vaccinations that are given to children. But the science on this, as our public health professionals I'm sure would be happy to tell you, the science on this is really clear." Christie's statement is, quote, "Mary Pat and I have had our children vaccinated, and we think that it's an important..." And by the way, notice that Obama didn't actually say that. I mean, he probably did, but Christie actually went a bit further and said, yeah, we vaccinated our kids. And, quote, "We think that it's an important part of being sure we protect their health and the public health. I also understand that parents need to have some measure of choice in things as well, so that's the balance that the government has to decide." So Christie was actually a bit more wishy-washy than Obama. Obama pretty much said, yeah, it's a decision to be made by parents, and Christie went with like, well, we have to balance the interest kind of thing. So if anything, Christie's statement was less anti-vaxxer than Obama's. Not that either one of them were, but, but trying to paint Christie as siding with the anti-vaxxers, no.
No kidding.
Well, and adding in more Bogosity to the mix, Rand Paul had to open his mouth, and every time he opens his mouth, he makes me hate him more and more. But he did say he vaccinated his own kids, and he even called vaccination one of the greatest medical advances ever. But then he went on with the suspicion that there might be a link between vaccines and autism.
Fuck you, Rand Paul.
We know there isn't. Give it up.
Oh, God. Damn it, autism and vaccine correlation myth. Why won't you die?
Well, and it's just the press is jumping all over these guys because they're contenders for the presidential nomination. And we only just started 2015. This early, it's already starting.
Oh, God. And they wonder why folks like me don't watch the news. Because I'd rather have a head that's empty than one that's full of shit. Thank you very much.
So brace yourself, folks, because most of the information we get about the election is going to be filtered through this week's biggest Bogon emitter. History is written by the winners, and so apparently is economics. That's why there's LibertyClassroom.com. Probably the best single learning resource for history and economics on the web, LibertyClassroom.com teaches U.S. history, Western Civ, and economics from actual university professors. There's lots of free material to get you started, including introductory lectures on all these subjects, and when you sign up, you get the full site's content for just $99 a year, less than the price of 2 cups of coffee a month. And if you type in the promo code Bogosity in all caps, you'll get your first year for just $88. Lectures are available in both video and audio format, so you can watch or listen to them on your computer, your phone or tablet, or in your car. Learn at your own pace about the subjects you're interested in and become a more effective debater. You'll also get access to lots of supplemental materials and even the professors themselves via the discussion forum and even live video chats. Inform yourself against the myths and propaganda of our society. Visit LibertyClassroom.com. And now it's time to pee on the fence of this week's Idiot Extraordinaire! And this week it goes to Alternate's Mike LaSusa, writing in one of our favoritist websites, Salon.com, in an article titled, get ready for it, Nightmare Libertarian Project Turns Country into the Murder Capital of the World. And it's subtitled, Even Ayn Rand Would Be Taken Aback. Okay,
first things first, the fact that they even had to bring up Ayn Rand into this when, 1, she hated libertarians, 2, we hate her, 3, she supported fucking war, which is about as anti-libertarian as you can get.
Yeah.
Kind of speaks volumes. And second off, okay, seriously, the title alone, Nightmare Libertarian Project, what? It sounds like they're writing really bad science fiction. I mean, like the War of the Worlds thing, seriously.
So are you ready for this?
Oh,
Flux
dear
capacitor
God.
online? Bogon shields to max.
Oh, jeez. I have a feeling it's gonna peg it regardless. Oh, God.
Quote, since the 2009 coup against President blah, 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 I'm not going to try to pronounce these names, and the subsequent election of blah, 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 and favored successor, Honduras has embarked on a devastating neoliberal, which is libertarian in this guy's parlance, neoliberal economic program that has contributed to its status as one of the poorest and most unequal countries in the region. The privatization of Honduran society has been accompanied by a militarization of police security efforts in the country, both of which have been fueled by a network of U.S.-supported policies and programs. Since when is militarization of police and funding by U.S. policies libertarian?
Or free market. Yeah, it's like, yeah, good sir, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Oh, it's just an excuse. It's like, oh, okay, we need a hit piece against libertarians. This'll work.
Jeez.
So, quote, despite the country's crackdown on crime, violence in Honduras has skyrocketed in recent years. Maybe because of their crackdown on crime? Have you ever considered that? Maybe?
That can't be. I mean, Shane, didn't you hear? Government action always produces the action it's intended, and if it doesn't, well, then it's the other guy and the other party's fault because, reasons. Even though we have no evidence to back that up, but still, you should believe it because if you don't, we'll judge and shame you.
So he talks about Honduras having, quote, the world's second highest national murder rate, and it's home to 2 of the world's 5 most violent cities. Unchecked gang activity has contributed to widespread corruption and impunity within police and government institutions. Okay, so you have the war on drugs, police corruption, and government acting with impunity. Again, what's libertarian about that?
No kidding. Good grief, this is almost as stupid as the bit with the public fire department that let the house burn, and they start going off about that. See, this is why we get a private fire department. It's like, no, that was a public one, you morons.
Yeah, that was the city fire department, yeah. Following city ordinances. Quote, this elite police unit, which serves under the direct command of the presidency, so how is it libertarian, is intended to support President Hernandez's heavy-handed crime reduction efforts, with support from a legislature dominated by his conservative National Party. The Hernandez administration's police militarization efforts also had the backing of the country's business sector.
So, in other words, cronyism.
Yeah, cronyism, corporatism, mercantilism.
Natch.
Basically left-wing fascism.
Pretty much. But of course, they're gonna call that capitalism and free markets, even though any sane person who knows how to dictionary it would know that it isn't.
Now, he also talks about Honduras experimenting with these special employment and economic development zones. And the abbreviation from the Spanish is ZEDE. And I don't know if that's pronounced Zeeds or Zedes or whatever. I'm going to call them Zeeds, but they probably pronounce them the Spanish way. But they're also called charter cities.
And with sincere apologies to our Spanish listeners.
Right. It's my failing as a pronuncifier, not their failing as a language or anything. But anyway, he quotes Danielle Marie Mackey for the New Republic, quote, an investor, either international or local, builds infrastructure. The territory in which they invest becomes an autonomous zone from Honduras. The investing company must write the laws that govern the territory, establish the local government, hire a private police force, and even has the right to set the educational system and collect taxes. So that's not really libertarian, but I guess if someone wanted to, if they were the investor for this area, they could probably set it up as a libertarian area if they wanted to.
So, libertarian system, but collect taxes.
Well, yeah.
Seriously? Oh my god.
But the point is, they haven't even started this yet.
Oh my god, that...
So these Zeeds in the future are responsible for the current situation in Honduras.
God. Can you imagine if someone from the opposing party blamed them for something similar to that they hadn't even started yet? They'd hit the ceiling.
And he also says, quote, even more nefarious actors are already operating in a completely unregulated, free market, criminal underworld.
Oh, God.
No, that's not a free market, that's a black market. Because the government is engaging in prohibition.
I love it when people try to point to the violent drug trafficking in stuff and say, see, this is why free markets can't work. So let's see, GovCo forcibly prohibits and restricts trade. People try and fund the stuff anyways, and the resulting violence is somehow the free market that wasn't even theirs fault.
Government prohibits people from getting drugs. People get drugs anyway, and that's not a failing of government.
Evidently.
And then we have Maya Croft for foreign policy, which sounds like this nice little journal, but really it's just a mouthpiece to give spin to politicians. Quote, critics worry that evidence to date, the government's opaque approach, the Zed's undemocratic features, the cast of characters backing the scheme, and the vulnerabilities of people likely to be affected by development indicate that charter cities would be little more than predatory, privatized utopias with far-reaching negative implications for Honduran sovereignty and the well-being of poor communities. So don't you just like how these people have a special hotline to God so they can get these divine revelations so they can say what's going to happen in the future?
Yeah. Great. And they accuse us of knowing everything, too. More projection. And speaking of projection, utopia? Do they not know where that word came from?
Yeah.
Seriously.
This guy named Thomas More, people. Look him up.
Yeah.
So how free market is Honduras? Well, let's turn to the Index of Economic Freedom, where it's ranked number 116 in the world with an overall score of 57.4, putting it in the mostly unfree range.
Yeah.
So it says, quote, overall economic freedom has fallen by 1.2 points over the past 5 years. Score deteriorations in 3 of the 10 economic freedoms have included drops of close to 10 points in the management of government spending and labor freedom. The decline in economic freedom has undermined an economic environment that already lacks strong institutional foundations. As in many other Latin American countries, political and social instability related to the drug trade destabilizes the rule of law and encourages corruption.
No,
the labor market remains
one.
I know, and also water is wet.
Yeah.
The labor market remains one of the world's most rigid and procedural, and licensing requirements make it prohibitive for entrepreneurs to enter the formal sector.
Mm-hmm.
And the rule of law is really bad. Their property rights score is 30 out of 100. Freedom from corruption is 26.
Ouch.
Quote, rampant corruption and weak state institutions make it almost impossible to combat threats posed by transnational gangs and organized criminal groups. Honduras has the world's highest murder rate, the court system is weak and inefficient, and resolution of disputed cases can take years.
Wow, so almost as bad as our legal system. Okay, well, probably even worse, but yeah.
And on regulations, they say, quote, application of regulations has been inconsistent and non-transparent. Starting a new business is fairly easy, but obtaining operating licenses still takes close to 3 months on average. In the absence of a well-functioning labor market, informal labor activity persists, and that's like people getting paid under the table, things like that. Although the government regulates the price of key products, e.g. fuel, and services, it took steps in 2014 to reduce electricity and other subsidies. So they're also engaging in price fixing, which, guess what, doesn't work.
Yeah, because apparently they're going by the logic of, if we repeat it enough times, with no variation, it'll work. Oh wait, or is that the definition of insanity? Well, one or the other.
Probably both. And getting back to the article, it's like most of these hit pieces at least try to tie things into libertarianism, even if it's just a straw man version. He didn't even do that. There's not even an attempt to show how any of this is at all libertarian, as if he hopes just saying the word will do enough to associate us with this failure of heavy-handed and corrupt statism.
And of course, trying to paint us as objectivists.
Them's fighting words, or would be if we didn't believe in the nap.
Yeah.
So that makes Mike LaSusa this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. Well, that wraps up this Please Put Your Brain Under the Seat in Front of You edition of the Bogosity podcast. As always, you can come to forum.bogosity.tv to read the show notes and join the discussion. This podcast depends on you to keep going, so please donate using the links on the website or at our Patreon page, and feel free to join in by sending a question, statement, news article, or rant to podcast@bogosity.tv. You can even stick it in an audio file if you want. Thank you for listening, and thanks again to Travis Retriever for joining me.
You're quite welcome. It was fun. And ranty.
It's always good when it's ranty. Until next time, here's a quote from Bruce Schneier. If anyone thinks they can get an accurate picture of any place on the planet by reading news reports, they're sadly mistaken. The Bogosity podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivative 3.0 Unported License.
Bogosity.
Do you want answers to creationist claims against evolution? Would you like to know more about evolution yourself, or even engage creationists more directly, with actual peer-reviewed sources to back you up? My book, How Evolution is Scientific, is designed to show the basics of evolutionary theory and how it is so well supported using the scientific method. It's impeccably sourced, with references to the actual scientific material, and is arranged using the creationists' own criteria of what is scientific. Using their own arguments against them, see how evolution is scientific, but creationism is not, based on observations, accurate predictions, logic, and evidence. Get answers to common creationist claims, and even a primer on abiogenesis, the start of all life. It's all in my book, How Evolution is Scientific, available at Amazon and on Kindle, EPUB, and PDF as well. Get How Evolution is Scientific and never be taken in by creationists again.